Hi, Heartroom friends. It was great seeing everybody for our math groups today. And I want to introduce you to Piggy. Piggy will be reading with us today. And I also want to give a shout out to our friend Deidre. Happy birthday, Deidre. Today we're going to be reading The Trogglehumper for the Flesh Lump Eater. And we are on page 87. So if you have the book at home, go ahead and follow along. And if you don't, you can draw pictures or just listen. They is always having 50 winks before they go scrumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every then and now, he said, not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. Is it ever occurring to you that a human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years sleeping fast? I must admit that never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. This human being who says he is 50 has been fast asleep for 20 years and is not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking. It's a funny thought, Sophie said. Exfunkly, the BFG said. So what I is trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he is 50 is not 50. He is really only 30. What about me, Sophie said. I am 8. You is not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and little childers is spending half their time sleeping, so you is only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you is 8, the BFG said, but you has only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You is only 4, and please stop higgling me. Itchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with old Sage and Onions, who is hundreds of years more older than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. He is never wasting much time snozzling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie asked. Even less, the BFG answered. I is sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out of her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake. That's a fabulous word, isn't it? Grotesque. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gum, Frog, he cried. I is just having the most wopsy whiffling idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers, keeping your skirt on. Just you wait to see what I is going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave, with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of his pocket. He rolled back the stone, and he entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is in my pocket, Huggy Bee, he said. We is doing this lovely bit of buckwashling, both together. He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung on to the suitcase. He ran across to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Keep your head up good, the BFG said. Then you will get a fine wrinkle of what is going on. When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. They were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the flesh lump eater. He pointed at him, and then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a wink. He knelt down on the ground, and very quickly he opened the suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Which, ouch, she thought. This could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. What do you think is going to happen? They were about 10 feet away from the flesh lump eater's face. The snoring, snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and again, a big bubble of spit formed between his 2 open lips, and then it would burst with a splash and cover his face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, faintly scarlet Trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to its lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the flesh lump eater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then whoof, he blew. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting towards the giant's face, and for a split second it hovered above the face, and then it was gone. It seemed to have been sucked up the giant's nose, but it all happened so quickly doubtfully. Sophie couldn't be sure. We had better be skiddling away quick to where it is safe, the BFG said. He trotted off for about 100 yards and then he stopped. He crouched low to the earth. Now, he said, we is waiting for the gun and flames to begin. They didn't have to wait long. And I want you to see what he's doing here. Look how big the flesh lump eater is. And you can see how small the BFG is, even though he's a giant. Blowing the nightmare into the flesh lump eater's brain. Here we go. The air was suddenly pierced by the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard, and she saw the flesh lump eater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back again with a thump. And then it began to wiggle and twist and bounce about in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. Yow! Roared the flesh lump eater. Yow! Oh! He's still asleep, the BFG whispered. The terrible troggle-humping nightmare is beginning to hit him. Serves him right, Sophie said. She could feel no sympathy for this great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. Save us! Screamed the flesh lump eater, thrashing about madly. He's after me! He's getting me! The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms began more violent by the second. It was an awesome thing to watch such a massive creature having such a mighty convulsions. It's Jack, yelled the flesh lump eater. It's the gruesome, gruntious Jack. Jack is after me. Jack is whack-crackling me. Jack is spike-sticking me. Jack is splash-plunking me. It's the terrible, fight-swiping Jack. The flesh lump eater was writhing about over the ground like some colossal tortured snake. Oh, spare me, Jack, he yelled. Don't hurt me, Jack. Who is this Jack that he's going on about? Sophie whispered. Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of, the BFG told her. He is all absolutely terrified of Jack. He is all hearing that Jack is a famous giant killer. Can you think of which Jack has killed giants in nursery rhymes? See if you can think about that. We're going to stop here on page 92 and we'll read some more tomorrow about the flesh lump eater and his nightmare. Have a good night.